Over the last 3 decades, the Honda Civic Si has really established a nameplate for itself with enthusiasts for its attainable performance, easy to drive nature, and affordable price tag. Now, when Honda introduced the all-new Civic Si back in 2017, a lot of enthusiasts were concerned because they got rid of the charismatic, high-revving VTEC 4-cylinder engine, which was naturally aspirated, and replaced it with a small displacement turbocharged engine. So it was also the first time that we saw a turbo in the engine bay of a Civic Si. Now, when I drove the first 2017 Si a couple of years ago, I was left a little underwhelmed because it didn't quite give the performance that I was looking for in the Civic Type R, which is the pinnacle of the Civic lineup, which is why I'm out here in Austin, Texas today with Honda to drive the refreshed 2020 Civic Si. Honda says they've made some changes to the front and rear styling. They've also updated the final drive ratio in order to improve the acceleration of the Civic Si. So the big question I want answered, are the changes enough to finally make the Civic Si feel more like a Type R Lite? That's what we're here to find out. So for 2020, the changes are pretty light for the Civic Si, but let me first start with under the hood because this is the sport injected Civic. Now, Honda didn't actually make any changes to the 1.5 liter turbocharged engine. This is part of their Earth Dreams engine technology. This is essentially the same engine you're gonna find in a regular Civic, but with the boost turned up to now make 205 horsepower and 192 pound-feet of torque. Now those numbers are unchanged from the 2019 model. It still has about 20.3 PSI of boost feeding this thing air to help it create more power. Now compared to a normal Civic Turbo, it has between about 31 to about 25 more horsepower than a standard Civic, which is a pretty healthy increase. But what made me sad about this generation Si is it didn't actually have any more horsepower than the previous generation, which was the 2016 model. Now, it all goes out through a one choice only, a 6-speed manual transmission with a mechanical limited slip front differential. So the transmission hasn't changed, but the final drive ratio has changed. Honda says it's about 6% lower, so that should improve acceleration, but it also did lower the fuel economy. It's now rated at 26 in the city, 36 on the highway. That's a 2 mpg reduction. It's still one of the best in the segment. Regular gas is actually okay to be used in this thing, but Honda recommends that you put premium in it in order to get the maximum amount of performance. Now, it weighs around 2,800 pounds. This coupe model is about 30 pounds lighter than the sedan, so you should get to 60 in around the 6.5 second mark. Now, closing the hood and looking at the rest of the design, you can see the changes are pretty subtle. You really have to park this car next to the pre-refreshed model to see the differences. The big thing you're going to notice immediately is the fact that full LED headlights from the Type R are finally standard on the Si. The pre-refreshed model had those rather cheap-looking projector halogens. You can see you've got a multi-reflector LED low and high beam, LED turn signals, and you also have LED fog lights down here at the lower fascia. So it's a much more modern, upscale look. The rest of the lower front grille has been slightly changed. You have these new body-colored accents here that go into the piano black. The grille openings are slightly larger, and it looks like Honda has gotten rid of some of the fake vents and replaced it with some actual functional ones. And overall, I think the Civic Si still looks pretty nice. It actually, to me, looks a little bit better in this coupe version versus the sedan. You remember, you can still take this in the coupe or the sedan form. Now, this particular one here in Rally Red definitely is kind of a standout color for the Si. If you're looking for, other colors, Honda offers it, but they don't offer some things like, a yellow or the orange color that they used to offer in the previous generations. Then looking from the rest of this profile here, the wheels are another big change you're going to notice. These are a new 18-inch black finish wheel. I actually don't really like the wheel design as much as the pre-refreshed models. You'll have to let me know in the comments below which one you like. The brakes also, they are slightly upgraded, although I think Honda should have done with a red painted caliper to kind of give this thing a little bit more of a sportier look. This particular one here has the summer performance tires, which are a $200 upcharge. Now, this one being the coupe model is about 5.5 inches shorter than the sedan at 177 inches long. So this is, for me, the better proportioned vehicle when you look at it from the rest of the profile, because I think the sedan can be a little bit too big and a little bit frumpy at times. Now, the coupe model also gives you this really big spoiler at the back. The spoiler is not functional, obviously, like the Type R spoiler, but it does give this thing a slightly more sportier, a little bit more aggressive look. And I think the coupe's rear profile is probably the most interesting to look at. I really like the way the taillights look and how they kind of connect the two taillights together. The rear lower valence on this particular one hasn't been updated like the sedans was, which is why I think it's the better looking option. I still don't like how the vents are fake. I really wish Honda had put some real vents on this thing. And the Si still has that signature center exhaust outlet. I'll let you guys hear what the engine sounds like real quick. Honda says they didn't make any changes to the exhaust system, but they did add a new sound enhancer on the interior, which we'll go into the test drive later on. Now, this being the coupe model is a little bit less practical versus the sedan. You get around 11.9 cubic feet of space, which is about 3 cubic feet less than the sedan, which gives you about 15. The seats do fold down in a 60-40 manner, and you can actually fold them from the cargo area. So very subtle changes to the outside of the Civic Si. Let's hop into the interior and see some of the changes that Honda has made. First thing I want to show you, here's the current Honda key fob. They haven't changed it at all. It does not include remote start, of course, because the Si is only a manual transmission, but it's a very nice key, feels good in your hands. The push button start intelligent key is standard on Si's, so like every other Honda, there's a button on the door handle. If you touch that button, that will lock the door for you. And then when you want to unlock it, just touch the back of the door handle, and there's a sensor, and that will unlock the door for you. Now, the Si's interior, at a glance, doesn't really look all that different. I mean, it still has some nice red accents in here, but Honda's kind of beefed up the red accents. You can see the seats on the two front passenger seats, or the two front seats, have this new red area here in the actual bolsters, or in the actual inserts, along with the red stitching. The seat looks nice, but I hope you guys like cloth, because Honda doesn't offer leather or Alcantara on the Si, and you also get a manual seat, so they don't offer the power seat option or the leather option you can get on the regular Civics. The red accents is kind of carried over into the door panels. There's the new red accents on the dashboard here, kind of like the Civic Type R. The steering wheel also has red accents. So at first glance, it makes a good impression, but I just wish that Honda threw a little bit more color. It's just a very dark environment in here. Now, getting inside the interior, you can see the step-in kind of feels very similar to a regular Civic. I'm not even sure the Si is that much lower. The Type R itself definitely feels a lot more wider and lower than this, but shutting the door, the coupe has very heavy doors, but it has a very nice solid thunk. Remember, this car was an all-new platform a few years ago, and it really shows this car still feels really, really fresh. Now, to start it up, pretty much every other car is like this. Put the clutch in because I have a manual, and then push this button here to fire up the engine. Now, when you first start up the Si, the engine doesn't sound all that special. It has a very soft, muted, very Civic-like tone to it, which SIs have all kind of had that, although I will say the last K24 SI-powered that I drove, or SI-powered car that I drove, had a little bit more of a meaner sound. But put it into sport mode here. You can really hear the induction, the enhanced sound induction that this car has compared to the pre-refreshed models. We'll go into the test drive later on and we'll see, if it actually does sound good. But the rest of this cabin, as you can see, hasn't really changed. Honda has updated the infotainment system here, a faster processor, so it's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto like the pre-refreshed models. It works a little bit quicker now. You have an actual volume knob here, some buttons here as opposed to the touch-sensitive buttons. This was actually added for 2019. The interface itself, this is the older Honda Link infotainment system, so it's not quite as good as what you get in the Accord. It's not quite as snappy. You cannot get factory embedded navigation, which in this generation Si was a first that you couldn't get that. The previous generation Honda used to offer that as a factory option. The one thing this car has that the Type R doesn't have, though, is 3-level heated seats. You can't get that on a Type R. And above me, you can see there's also a nice little sunroof, which is standard on the Si. Again, you can't get that on a Type R. Then in terms of the materials, it is a soft touch injection molded plastic here. It's soft touch here with that faux stitching. The layout in here actually does look good. I like the steering wheel. It's soft touch here on this door panel over here. The steering wheel itself is tilt and telescoping. You can see Honda sensing has been added, so you have road departure mitigation. You have full speed range adaptive cruise control as well. It works with the manual transmission. I'm not entirely sure how it works to actually bring you to a full stop. I'm guessing the car will tell you to put the clutch in to keep the engine from stalling out. When you put the vehicle into reverse, you can see it gives you a backup camera with 3 different views, trajectory, no parking sensors, however, which is not really unexpected. Civics have rarely had that feature. Now over here you can see some storage over here. There's a little bit more storage over here where you have your USB port for the actual Apple CarPlay. No wireless CarPlay, no wireless phone charging. That is a dealer accessory if you guys are looking for wireless phone charging, but Honda doesn't do it from the factory. The shifter hasn't changed, although the final drive ratio, as I said, is a little bit lower. It's still a really nice shifter. Very short throws. Reverse is engaged by going all the way over to the right and then kicking back. You don't actually have to pull up or push down like some competitors. Still a good amount of storage over here. Another USB, adjustable cup holders. There's a center console here over here, where it's like part of a huge center console. This actually slides forward and back. Nice cloth seats. The glove compartment, it still cheaply falls down, but it is big size. It's not lined with felt. anything like that. But the seats, I also think they're very comfortable and supportive. Not as good as the Type R seats, but these will hug you, hold you in place during aggressive driving, and they're also still comfortable on those longer trips. So overall, the interior hasn't really changed much, didn't really need to, but it's interesting how Honda has thrown in some features on this car that you can't even get on the flagship Civic Type R. So this being the coupe model, obviously it's not the more practical option, but I think it is the better looking. So it does have a pretty usable back seat. To get back here, go to the passenger side and just pull that lever like a lot of other coupes, and you can see it actually creates a fairly large opening to get back here, which I will do that to show you guys for demonstration purposes. Now, I'm only 5'7", so I'm not very tall, but Honda says there's about 36 inches of legroom back here, which is about an inch less than what you get in the sedan. So there is a fairly decent amount of space. The headroom definitely does cut in because of the coupe's lower roofline, but you can see it actually does have a center seat here, so you could put 3 people across, albeit people that are slightly smaller. In terms of the materials, it's all hard touch plastic back here. There are 2 cup holders on both sides of the doors, but there isn't really much in terms of features. Okay, so we're here in Austin, Texas. I'm with my favorite driving partner, the lovely Clint Simone from Motor1.com. And the last program we were on was Legacy, yes?
Yeah, okay. Super Legacy.
And you were complaining it wasn't quite sporty enough. So
Pardon me complaining.
This time we're in the new SI, the 2020 SI. And the first thing I want to do, because it's an SI, I want to see how well this new one accelerates. So traction off. So that rev beep when you get close to the red line is kind of annoying. I don't like it because it sounds like the adaptive or like the forward collision warning is gonna yell at me to crash, but it actually put the power down well. What did you think?
You spun the absolute crap out of the wheel.
It was fun though.
Yeah, fun.
This is what an SI is about, because I had a 2013 ILX, which was basically an SI in accurate drag. They didn't have an LSD, but this, because of the LSD, it puts the power down well. And Honda said that they made the gearing shorter by 6%. I think it was like a 4.35 to 1 ratio versus like 4.105. Basically what it means is improved acceleration. Now the old one, 0 to 60, was like 6.5 seconds, I think. Which is fine, although the problem is that you can get like a Civic Sport touring with the CVT and it'll also be like 6.7 seconds. So
yeah, the
SI, the problem with the old one or the pre-refreshed one is it didn't quite feel special enough, like over a regular Civic, because Honda made the regular Civic so good. Thankfully this new one, this new one, this refreshed one, it still has a lot of traits about it that make it feel like a fun car. Like this has a lovely shifter, it's got a great chassis. I mean, this is the same chassis that the Type R is based on. And what I was hoping with this new one is that Honda would make this car feel like a Type R Lite. And that was the question that I asked at the beginning of this video. Does it feel like more like a Type R Lite? And the answer is no, not really. But it does feel like a more special car than the regular Civic now.
This car has a lot of siblings surrounding it that are also pretty good.
Well, yeah, because you could get the Civic Sport hatch with a manual, which is like $22,000. So this one at $25,000 is still a great deal. But I think that some of you who want the ultimate Honda are still gonna pony up for the extra 10 grand to get the Type R. But this is no longer, bad. I mean, they haven't really fixed the rev hang though. It also doesn't rev match very well when I stab the throttle. But at least when I put my foot down, it has a better sound. Now this has a new sound symposer enhancer thing, which you don't really like.
They pump it through the speaker.
Yes, and it's a little louder in sport, which actually I wasn't even in sport mode.
Oh.
Now I'm in sport mode. Hey, that wasn't bad, actually.
Right as we catch a truck, so perfect timing. Yeah, like I would absolutely, if I was getting a Civic, I would want a hatch. That's just my favorite body style. It's the most practical. I think it looks the best.
Right.
And you cannot get the SI in the hatch, but you can get the hatch that's also very good, the Sport with the manual.
Right.
It just depends on what you want. This is still a really, really good value for $25,000.
Oh, absolutely. And this one, being the coupe that we're driving, I think looks better than the sedan.
Yeah, barely, but yes. LED headlights now. Yes,
so now the old SI, I complained about it because it looked cheap, because it had those projector halogens like for the headlights and the fog lights. So this now has the full LEDs, so it looks a little bit more modern, a little bit more expensive. And like going up to these back roads here outside of Austin, it does handle well, and it sounds okay. Not much exhaust noise, but the SI usually has been known for that VTEC crossover, and this is one of the first SIs in a long time that doesn't have VTEC. Do I miss it? I do, because the rev-happy nature of this engine just isn't quite there like the old K24. The old K24 was so rev-happy, it really liked to pull past 7,000, and I'm just kind of sad that this Redline is a very low 6,500, because even the Type R goes to over 7,000.
I would probably argue that this is better for everyday driving.
Yeah, no,
a little more torque down low. I mean, going stoplight to stoplight earlier, once the boost kicks in, it's just fine. It's very easy to drive like quietly and subdued as well.
Yeah, and to be honest, also the ride quality doesn't really beat you up that much. I mean, it has the adaptive dampers, where in sport, this road is a little bumpier actually than back there, but it actually is still very comfortable. It still can be really quiet if you put it in 6th gear and just cruise. So as a daily driver, Honda likes to say this is their best, performance daily driver, and they're not wrong. Like, this is an easy car to live with, and I wouldn't mind driving this daily, but you said you don't like manual every day.
No, but that's just a me preference. I mean,
Right.
For the diehards and the Honda fans that want to do that, you absolutely should.
Yeah.
It's a good manual. Once you get used to the clutch is a little finicky and it's very light.
Yeah.
Once you get used to that, I think this would be a great car to go through canyons. You'd become very good at driving it with not too much of a learning curve.
Yeah, I think you're right about the clutch. It is a little vague. I don't really feel when it engages, and it kind of engages right at the end. And I luckily did not stall it while we were leaving the parking lot with all the Honda
I would have made
preps.
you leave that in the
Oh my God. That would have been embarrassing. But yeah, I mean, this car, they've made some nice improvements to it to where I would recommend it now over an Elantra Sport, which I used to actually prefer before they refreshed it.
Yes. We have to be honest. The Elantra Sport is so ugly
It's hideous now.
It's so ugly that you can't even consider it. And this, they kept all the performance parts that you liked from the pre-facelift and added some everyday things that make it better, like Honda sensing, the LED headlights, things like that. So it's actually a little bit more dressed up now, too, for good money.
Right. So the one thing I do want to ask you, because you had a GTI, would you buy this over a GLI? Because the GLI is like $1,000 more.
You like that new GLI?
I did.
Too.
I do.
I like it a lot too.
I mean, it's got way more power. It's got a 2-liter, which is what people wanted in this thing. They wanted Honda to do a
That's a good
detuned
question.
2-liter.
You put me on the spot. I get all nervous now. I didn't think about that one ahead of time. I think as an everyday driver, that one's a little bit more livable. The infotainment is just that much better. I think this one looks better than a GLI. But again, that's because I'm a fan of hatchbacks. Yes. I don't know. That's a total toss-up, and that's actually a really damn good comparison.
Well, because like the GLI does offer a couple of features that you still can't get in an SI.
Yeah, and it's more expensive.
It is, but like $30,000 for a loaded Autobahn.
Yeah, but this is 25,000.
It is
5,000 with those two price points is a big difference, considering this is very good.
Yes. However, you don't like this head unit, and the VW one is much better.
Yeah, this one is not very good. But that was the case beforehand, so I wasn't expecting it to change too much. But that's also not a reason not to buy this car. It has CarPlay and Android Auto, which has everything you need. Don't use any of this stuff that's in the system.
Just drive the car. That's really what you want to do.
Drive the car and use CarPlay. You'll be very happy doing so. I actually like the way it drives a lot. I keep going back to, if you're young and you want this to be your first performance car, especially if you're a big fan of the Honda brand, there's no reason not to buy this. This would be a great way to autocross and to have fun, like learning how to drive fast in a car like this.
And Honda did say that 60% of SI buyers are our generation, Gen Y and Gen Z.
Yeah.
Which I mean makes sense. Like $25,000, like really approachable performance, a lot of huge tuning potential. The sound, I guess the enhanced sound. What do you think of it?
I keep not wanting to downshift. It sounds okay. I'll be nice to it. That was never the reason you were going to buy this car to begin with, for the engine noise. The engine, yes. The noise it makes, no. But that's the same case in the Type R. It doesn't make... The Honda engines do not make that great of a noise. You said it was buzzy earlier. I agree with that. It is a little buzzy.
Well, it's a little buzzy. It's a little slow revving. It also doesn't really... It has some rev hang still, which I was kind of hoping they would have addressed.
But I would trade that for the torque you get down low.
It is nice to have the torque. I do think that I miss the VTEC from time to time, like the crossover. Like the Type R, you sort of feel it a little bit more, but it just has torque.
VTEC you miss because like that's the kind of character you expect from a Civic, and just historically you want that to be a part of it. Yeah. But it moves, and it doesn't sound too bad there once you're on it.
Above 5, it actually sounds.
And when it's not lingering in between 2.5 and 3.5, but I like it. It's fun to drive, and it's not intimidating at all.
Okay. So after spending the day driving the 2020 Civic Si, I realized that this car will always have a special place in my heart because Honda says that it is the car that attracts a lot of younger buyers. About 60% of buyers, first-time buyers, look for a Civic or a Civic Si as their first performance car. This is designed to be the gateway into Honda's performance image. And I have to say, I really like the changes that Honda has made to the Si for 2020. They've really improved the acceleration from that shorter final drive ratio. It's still a really comfortable car to live with. It has a surprisingly good ride quality, a good quiet interior, a lot of tech features on the inside. This actually has more tech features, like I said, versus the Civic Type R. And really where Honda has addressed the Si is they've made it feel a little bit more special than the regular Civic, but it doesn't still feel like a Type R Lite, which for me, that's kind of okay because of the price point of this car, which by the way, if you're looking to buy one of these, it's already on sale at your local Honda dealer and it starts at $25,000 even for either the coupe or the sedan. Your only option is just the $200 summer tire option. So with destination, this car is a little over $26,000. Over the years, Honda has increased the price of this car by about $700 versus the 2019 model, but with the added fact of the Honda Sensing, it's kind of a worthy upcharge for the price. So the Si is still an incredible value and it's about $10,000 less than a Civic Type R. And to be honest, it no longer feels like it's a step down, that huge of a step down from the Type R, but you finally feel like you got a car that's a little bit more special than the Civic Sport hatch that your neighbor decided to buy. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2020 Honda Civic Si Coupe. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.